Namaskar and a very good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly take on currency market. And a lot happened this week. पहले European Central Bank hiked interest rate for the first time in the last 11 years. दूसरी तरफ UK में four high profile data came out and that had an impact on the pound as well. There was some impact in yen INR as well because of the movement in the US bond yields. But what did not move was the USD INR. So let's look at how the major currency pairs fared. USDINR, as I said, was dead flat. Yen, pound, and euro, they improved on an ascending order. And that clearly shows that Indian rupee was an underperformer this week, and that comes out once again through this much more broad-based ranking data. यहाँ पे हम लोगों ने 26 currency pair को लिए हैं. Basically, these are all the widely traded USD pairs. And there we see USDINR, which means Indian rupee is one of the underperformers because it's ranked 19th out of the 26 currencies. So definitely most of the currencies have done better than the Indian rupee. So this week, Indian rupee was an underperformer. The good news is that in spite of being an underperformer, the volatility was quite low. So let's come to what's happening in the USDINR market. What are the drivers? और उसके साथ what's in store, at least in the price action and option data. There's something interesting change which happened. जो अगर हम लोग daily FPI flows को track करते हैं, तो उसमें there has been a decent jump in the FPI inflows over the past 3 or 4 trading sessions. Whether this is the start of a bigger trend, we have to wait and watch, or this is just going to be a blip. But अगर हम लोग data को देखते हैं since beginning of June, this jump in the FPI inflow is quite material. So because FPI flows, carry trade, RBI, ये तीन major factors have will decide the bigger trend in the USDINR. So अगर FPI flows are turning positive, it can be negative for USDINR. But again, we need to watch out. This is very early data. We need to see a trend emerge. Option activity. Now, option activity is clearly showing. When we are looking at option activity, हम लोगों को फोकस करना पड़ेगा आउट ऑफ मनी ऑप्शंस में, आउट ऑफ मनी कॉल्स, आउट ऑफ मनी पुट्स, क्योंकि जो ऑप्शन सेलर होते हैं दे इनकर एन अनलिमिटेड रिस्क. इसके लिए व्हेन their options or the options which they have sold becomes in the money, they are forced to cover those, and that puts an pressure on the futures price. So it either let's say moves up or it comes down. If the put sellers are under pressure, it creates a downward pressure on the futures price. If the call sellers are under pressure, it creates an upward pressure on the futures price. So 80 ka jo strike hai, we clearly see there is a very large open interest in accumulated in the 80 strike call, which means this area is going to act as a very strong resistance. At the same time, 79.50 and it is going to act as a major support. And in fact, it's also 79.75. So around 80, the basically option sellers are betting that this market will stay between 79, 75, 80, or even 79 half or an 80. We have to see because 29th ko Fed meeting hai. So whether the option sellers come out as winners or they are squeezed, we have to wait and see what happens after Fed. Price action in USDINR is clearly indicating it's a range bound market, but it's coming out that above 80 there is a lot of supply coming in, whether it's aggressive central bank intervention, exporter selling, corporate flows, FPI inflows, which we saw in the previous slide. So whatever be it, it's basically some supply of dollar is coming above 80. So that's the reason why 80 Q per dollar is unable to stick. At the same time, 79.85 and 79.70 is going to be a strong support level. If it starts to break down below 79.70, then we have a problem in our hands. And then we can say a medium-term top in the USDINR is in place. But jab tak 79.70 is intact, we have to assume that the dollar rupee can slip into a consolidation zone before the uptrend resumes. So these are the levels on the way up. 80.10 is going to be a major resistance. This is a spot chart, so therefore the futures will be at a premium. For example, अगर हम लोग August end futures को देखते हैं, August 26, क्योंकि July 27th is going to expire midweek. So August 26 का futures is trading around 22, 23 paisa premium. So accordingly, you can figure out the levels on the futures chart. But spot के हिसाब से 80-10 is a major barrier, and 79.85 and 79.70 is a very strong support level. Now coming to the euro, a lot happened, as I said. Pella, the ECB hiked rates by 50 basis point, which was a hawkish move. It's the first hike after 11 years, and that brings their rates out of the negative zone, which is uh, what has helped the euro over the past 1 week to recover. But that in itself is not going to be enough. Kyunki ECB is way behind the Fed in terms of how fast a central bank can hike, because the European economy is far weaker than the American economy, and that trajectory is not going to change at least in the next couple of months. So that's the reason why euro has not been able to take much benefit from the ECB hike as of now. ECB also unveiled a new anti-fragmentation tool known as transmission protection instrument. Basically, ये एक bond buying program है, which is an emergency bond buying program, which will be put into place when the ECB feels that uh, the bond yields of the weaker countries like Italy, Spain, etc., it's actually rising much more than what's happening in Germany. So when the yield spreads between the German bonds and these peripheral nation bonds increases quite significantly, that's the time when ECB can come into the market and try to bring those yields closer. So it's a more of an emergency measure, but उसमें problem ये है कि जो conditionality ECB ने दिया है for a particular country to qualify, that's quite strict, and that's the reason why the market did not like it. The Russian gas flows have restarted through the Nord Stream 1, but it's happening at a much lower capacity. And Russia has warned that if the sanctions continue, it can hamper their ability to supply gas to Europe in the winter. So that's a big thing. The flash PMIs from the Eurozone was pretty bad. The German PMI actually came in the contractionary zone. So the recession risk, or I would say the it's not really stagflation, it's kind of a recession. So it's high inflation and contractionary growth. That deadly combination of risk is actually becoming quite material for the euro. इसके लिए euro has not been able to benefit from this hike in the ECB rates, because the market is not very sanguine as to how far the ECB can hike rates or how long the ECB can continue to hike rates. This is one chart which you should always keep an eye on. This is not something you have to track on a daily basis, but keeping an eye on the trend is important. There is a very strong correlation between what the interest rate differential between German and US bonds are, where they are, and where is the euro dollar. In fact, euro dollar has become quite interestingly tightly linked with the trend in the equity markets. क्योंकि ये साल it's all about if you're long dollar, you're short everything else. So that's the reason why Euro USD and the MSCI Emerging Market Equity Index का जो correlation has become very, very tight. So we have to actually, so people are playing the euro also as a risk currency, as they're doing with the pound, which we will see in the later slides. Which means when for a much more durable turn in the euro dollar, if you are betting on a medium to long term turn in the euro USD from down to up, then you have to also basically bet on uptrend in the MSCI Emerging Market Equity Index, which means a complete risk on all over the world. So until unless we can build that in, it is very hard to project a much higher euro. We will always get a corrective pullbacks along the way to rebalance the positioning, but uske beyond to expect a major rally in the euro dollar, it's very premature at this stage. Price action is clearly bearish. We have lower lows and lower highs in the prices in the euro dollar. Why am I showing you the euro dollar and not euro INR? Because euro INR is a combination of two currency pairs, euro dollar and dollar rupee. Looking at a chart of euro INR is of little use because that currency is not really traded in the mother market, which is the OTC. So the levels, the support levels, chart formation जो form होता है in a euro INR chart is purely coincidental or what I would call as random. So they don't have much importance from the perspective of signals. So therefore, when you are trading the euro INR, you need to constantly shuttle between two outlooks. Where is the euro dollar going and where is the USD INR going? When you have a clear view that the USD INR is going to be range bound and euro dollar is going to go up, that means that is the time to buy the euro INR and vice versa. So Abhi, the larger trend for the euro dollar is down. Major resistance is around 104 with the interim around 102.50. Support, of course, around parity and then around 0.99. Next week, important events to watch, of course, the US Fed meeting. That's on Wednesday night, our time. Then you have the German IFO, the inflation numbers, and the US inflation as well. Now let's turn our attention to pound or GBP. 4 high-profile data came out this week. Pehla, the job market data was quite solid, and even various surveys are pointing that the employment opportunity in UK is pretty strong. Wage growth is also solid, but the problem area is inflation is significantly high, and that's creating a historic cost of living squeeze in UK, and that's hurting consumer demand, that's hurting business investments. And we saw that impact in two data, the retail sales and the flash PMIs. So one good thing is that the surveys are also pointing out that there the cost pressure is easing, but at the same time, come winter, the spike in the gas prices is going to hurt the economy pretty badly. So this respite from lower prices can be is going to be temporary, and come winter again, the UK economy is going to be under pressure. So that's not good news for pound or GBP. Like euro, we need to also keep an eye on the interest rate differential between UK and US because it has a strong correlation with GBP dollar. Or at the same time, the equity market trend. Like the euro, GBP has also become a risk currency. So what's the risk sentiment in the world has a major bearing. So when the equity markets are doing well, GBP tends to do well unless some kind of endogenous risk from UK arises. Otherwise, GBP tends to do well and vice versa. So keep an eye on the global equity markets because pound generally equity market as a proxy trade kar raha hai for the last 1 year. Price action in GBP dollar is downward like the euro dollar. Now finally, we come to JPY. यहाँ पे the yield differential is important. Stock market के साथ correlation with yen has weakened this year unless there are some big moves happening in the global equities, especially on the way down. Other than that, the correlation has weakened, but with rates or the interest rate differential, the correlation is pretty high. So abhi, the interest rate differential is actually indicating that USD JPY could be in a phase of consolidation and correction. And that's exactly what the price action is indicating. We have to understand the USD JPY goes down, assuming USD INR is in a range. When USD JPY falls, yen INR goes up. Because JPY INR is basically a combination of two currency pairs, USD JPY and USD INR. इसके लिए USD JPY downward trend is positive for JPY INR. USD JPY का upward trend is negative for JPY INR. Keep that in mind. To sum up, here are the levels on the August futures. August is clear because July and July 27th is going to expire. midweek. August 26th is what is relevant for us, and this is what is our bias. We are still downwardly biased on the euro and the pound. USDINR has a sideways to a slightly upward bias. USDINR has also a slightly upward bias due to the downward correction in the USDJPY. So that's it, folks. This is Anindya Banerjee signing off. Have a fantastic week ahead.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.